Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Hi, welcome to Fairy Tale Access. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Madilynn Dale from Oklahoma by Skype with her series, Releasing Our Power Within, Phase Shifters. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. I love the whole concept of this story. You have shapeshifters, phase shifters, portals, and there's cats and lions, and a lot of family secrets. How did this all come about?
It was actually stemmed from a dream I had, and I just kind of wrote it down and let it carry me away.
Seriously, this is how you dream?
Yeah,
That's
it's some crazy stuff, but I was pregnant at the time too when I had the dream, and I finally got it typed out on paper. It took me longer than like a year or so, I think, to finally get it down, but yeah.
wow. And now there's 4 books in the series. How long did the series take you?
About a little over a year, I think, because once I got that book done, everything else kind of seemed to flow, and I couldn't turn it off. So, and with the pandemic and everything, it gave me more time to write. So I just went with it.
Wow. How many children do you have?
I only have one, and he has been very gracious to let me type on occasion. But a lot of my writing for the books have been done late at night when he's asleep or during nap time.
Oh, that's great. How old is he?
He turned 3 in January.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, you can see how your mom instincts played out in this.
Yes.
So tell us about the main character, Liz.
So Liz is a physical therapist assistant. In book 1, she's a hard worker. She has problems telling people no, has worked herself into the ground, didn't really give herself time to mourn her mother's death. Her mother passed away from cancer. But on a random trip her and her best friend take, she decides she wants something more in life. Like, she wants a better life, a happier life, less stress. And she's trying to pursue yoga, trying to do anything she can to manage her stress levels. But she takes the leap of faith and decides, hey, I'm going to move into my family's cabin, and we're going to change my life, and we're going to see where it goes from there. And she was not prepared for what she got handed to her when she moved there. She found love, got a new job, got magic, and she's had to take it in stride. Like, she found out there's more to her family than she thought. And it was overwhelming for her, but seems to handle it well, and she grows a lot in this whole series.
Definitely. Where did you get the idea for the cabin?
So my hometown, we have a huge state park, which in the series, I kind of base the landscaping and everything off the state park I grew up in. It's called Beavers Bend State Park. It's in southeast Oklahoma, and there are cabins everywhere. And it's always been my dream to go sit in a cabin in the woods and like either live and write and just read books. But that's where the cabin idea came from.
Wow. Now, what age group did you target when you were writing this piece?
Probably more 17 and up. Probably, I'd say 17 to 40-year-olds would enjoy this book with a mix of romance in it, fantasy, coming of age.
Oh, it's definitely coming of age. I love that. I love the whole layout. It seriously whisks you away. And it's such a big story, and it's only packed into, what was it, just a little over 200 pages?
Yes.
Were all the books in the series about the same amount of pages?
Pretty much. I formatted the next one a little bit differently, so it kind of condensed it a little more than I expected. But I don't want to make it too long because there's a lot of people that are daunted by huge, thick books, and I want more people to enjoy my stories. So if it's not overly huge, maybe somebody else will pick it up that's not a huge reader, you know?
Oh, that's good. So in the rest of the how many books will be in the total series?
I was originally going to stop it at 4, but this last book kind of took a turn and the characters didn't want to stop. So there's going to be another one coming. I foresee at least 1 or 2 more, so maybe 6. But the one coming out on the 30th, it kind of does a twist and brings in more of the family that'll be introduced later on in the series. And it kind of is going to shift a little bit.
What about all the family dynamics? What in your background brought you to those kind of dynamics?
So I kind of based it a little bit off of my family, both like my husband's side and my side. Everybody has a little bit of crazy in their family. I've just chosen to kind of embrace mine, and I've put that into my series in a way. It's not completely based off how my family is. Like, there's no secret family members I didn't know about. Maybe discovering, oh, hey, this person's my cousin, like a distant cousin that I didn't know about, but nothing like what Liz expects. But I kind of took the idea from my crazy family and put it in hers.
What about all the men in it? Same thing, based off your family?
Yeah, for the most part. I had a lot of guy friends growing up. So Cam's guy friends, who initially pretty much adopt Liz as a friend, they all come from people I was friends with growing up. And then Liz's best friend, Tip, is actually based off of like 3 of my friends put into one. But yeah.
Oh, well, that makes sense. All right. What about self-care? That seemed to be a big issue in the book, taking care of yourself, looking out for yourself.
Yes. So that is something I have been working on myself. And a lot of people don't talk about self-care very much. And I really wanted to put that in my book because I know a lot of people like myself, they go to books to escape reality, escape like all the chaos happening in their lives. And sometimes they ignore the fact that they need to focus on self-care more, like take care of themselves more. Like, hey, it's okay to go spend money on a t-shirt that I really like, or like getting my hair done kind of stuff. And like yoga is very good stress relief self-care methods that I have used, and it has been life-changing.
What about
I had to incorporate that.
What about the physical? That's okay. What about the physical therapy angle? Are you a physical therapist in real life?
Yes, I am. I am a licensed physical therapist assistant here in Oklahoma. And it's played a key role in her development.
And the way she deals with her patients.
Yes.
And I'd actually heard a lot of the stories of the type of patients that you run into. That was really key. It made it so realistic. And yet you were in this fantasy realm. And you're like, wow, maybe it could happen.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what I want to portray in my books. Like, oh, hey, this could really be a real thing. Like, these people could actually be walking around me and I have no idea that they're a shifter. That makes life fun.
Why did you pick cats and lions?
So with orienting the story more Oklahoma-based, I wanted to stick with something that was a common animal here. And initially, I wanted to go with a wolf because I read a lot of wolf shifter books, werewolves and stuff. But there's not really any wolves in Oklahoma. But we do have mountain lions. And they're pretty vicious. I remember hearing one in the woods when I was young, scared me to death because we were at deer camp with my family. And me and my cousins were just up in the woods playing because we were in this old rock quarry is where we put all our campers and tents and stuff. But we were on top of one of the hills playing in the trees, and we heard something that sounded like a baby crying, which is how they describe mountain lions sounding when they howl and stuff. And I was like, because I'm the oldest of my cousins, like, we got to go back to camp, guys. I don't know where that's at. I don't want to run into it. But that's a mountain lion. We got to go back. So I kind of wanted to put something realistic in there that people can be like, oh, hey, this is actually like a thing in Oklahoma. Like, they have these. So.
Well, so I wasn't sure if that was just an aspect of the book. So really, lions sound like they're crying like a baby?
Mountain lions do. When they start, sometimes they do. They don't always, but when their roar kind of makes you think of a baby crying.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Definitely. But how do you know the difference? How do you know it's not like a baby somewhere, off to the side or?
That is a great question. I know from the time I heard it when I was a kid, there's definitely not going to be a random baby out in the middle of the woods. 'Cause we were literally out in the middle of nowhere. But if you were somewhere that was more populated, which mountain lions have been known to cross into more populated areas in the past few years, that's a great question. I don't know how I would handle that. Like, I guess just listen to see if it cries again. And I wouldn't want to get any closer, but.
I know because, Liz is especially, she's so sympathetic. Well, she actually did, go to check it out and was a bit surprised. But wow, that's scary. I didn't know that about mountain lions.
Yeah.
Which was your favorite scene to write?
Oh, okay. So I think the scene where Liz discovers what she truly is, kind of I'd say the main fight scene. I guess you would say it's a fight scene between the mountain lions later in the story.
Right.
That was my favorite scene to write because she kind of first off loses all her common sense. Like, hey, I'm going to get involved in this mountain lion fight. Let me just put myself in between here. Like, what person in their right mind is going to do that? But her brain, she's like, oh no, I can totally handle this. And she goes off and jumps in the middle of it. And then she's like, holy crap, wait, what just happened?
So how did you write those fight scenes? What kind of research did you do? Or, do you do martial arts? What kind of activities do you do that helped you create that whole atmosphere?
So I actually did a little bit of karate when I was little. But I think more of just watching and reading different fight scenes between animal shifters and whatnot kind of gave me the idea for that. I didn't want to go over the top with it because she was just finding out hey, I'm a shifter. I'm not human. But I kind of incorporated it to include just regular self-defense kind of stuff.
I like the family dynamics, finding out you have a sister and one of them being really excited about it and the other being resentful, angry, all that jealousy. Where did you draw on for that?
So that one, I actually kind of came off of the idea on my own of how would this person that's had everything handed to her all her life react to finding out, hey, now I have to share all of this stuff. There's somebody older than me that I didn't know exists. There would be anger and resentment because now you have to share. And all these things you thought were going to be handed to you are now being taken away. So I had to kind of make that realistic because I would be angry too,
Well, I think you did a really good job with that, with exploring both sides of the dilemma to make everybody sit back that might be reading it, that might be going through a similar experience. You just kind of sit back and look at it from both sides and hopefully, make better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved how you played that out. That came out really good.
Thank you.
So with the mating, is that something typical to mountain lions?
So
How they choose their partners, or is it a life partner for mountain lions?
In my story, it is. I don't think it is in real life. I would have to do more research on that. Uh, but with it being a fictional story and kind of loosely based off of more fantasy kind of stuff, I wanted to make it a little bit more like how people could relate to it, because there's a lot of shifter stories that mention the female having a mate in just one person, but there's more coming in book 2 regarding the mates. She actually, this may be a little bit of a spoiler, finds a second mate. So she's going to have 2, and they kind of balance it out just because she's more than just a shifter. There's a lot more into her dynamic and makeup than what she finds out in book 1. So
how did you come up with, does Oklahoma have like legends or myths that helped you add to the book, especially with the fays? How did all of that come into play?
So the fae stuff came in because I love reading stories with fae characters in it. I am a huge fan of Sarah J. Maas, and she does a lot of fae in her books. And I kind of wanted to tie in fae and shifters to make it have a twist and be different than just a regular shifter story. So in the rest of the series, you're actually going to see more of the fae realm come into play and how they got intermingled in with the shifters, which the shifters actually are descendants from skinwalkers in the main story. So this will come out later in the series about the skinwalkers and how it ties in. But they are actually a whole different kind of race on their own, the skinwalkers. That's actually based off of Native American history. And there's some really scary stories that tie into the skinwalkers.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yes.
So, and now I'm curious, what does your workspace look like?
It's a little chaotic. Right, because I share the main computer with my husband with his workspace, but I do a lot of typing on my laptop. But I actually have a outline of a new series I'm working on hanging on the wall over here. And then I have like 2 notebooks with outlines and information for the face shifters written down. And then a journal with even more like ideas down. So it's a little all over the place. My coffee maker stays in the kitchen though.
I was going to ask you about that. Just so, do you plan it out like a family tree and put their dynamics and personality traits in there? How do you keep track of all of that?
I created a Excel spreadsheet with all the characters, and I list them out. And I go through, I'll put their name, like who they are in relation to the main characters. Like, I'll use Tiff, for example. I put best friend to Liz, and then I go on to list off like her traits, like dragon shifter, her magic and everything, and stuff that comes out later in the book. And I keep that Excel thing on my Google Docs so I don't lose it. But the outlines, I do a rough outline and I'll write it out and keep it where I can keep it handy as I go through and write. But the one I've got hanging on the wall is made of sticky notes.
So, hopefully none fall off.
As long as my son doesn't see it, they should stay in place.
He can't reach it yet, right?
Oh, I wish, but he's a pretty tall kid. We actually were at the doctor's office, 2 days ago, and he is 3'3" tall. So he's on his way to being a 6 foot tall person, and I'm just like, okay, one day you're going to be able to throw me across the room like your uncle. That's awesome. Because my little brother is 6'4". Wow. And yeah, I'm not quite that tall, but.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'4", and my little sister is 5 foot.
So the giant
of the family.
The guy's got the height. Oh
yeah.
And what about pets? Because just the way that you describe some of the things, you must have some pets.
I do. I actually grew up on a farm, and so at the time I had 4 dogs and 3 cats when I wrote the story, but now I'm down to 2 dogs and 3 cats. And one of my cats I actually used to describe the cat in the story at the very end. It's totally based off of my cat.
Oh, that's great. Well, you just tie them in so nicely. And the way that the shifters, like the changes and the way that they interact when they're in human form or their shifted form, that was really good. I was really impressed. And I really liked it because it wasn't another wolf shifter. It was cats and lions. All right. And when did you start writing? Has this been a career or?
Originally, it was going to start out as a hobby. It's definitely changed into I'm turning it more into a career. Just kind of making my way slowly, taking one step at a time. But I started writing really originally when I was a kid. I had a huge imagination. I still do. And some of my English teachers, they encouraged me to keep writing, but I didn't stick with it as much. Once I got into high school and everything, I got tied up with everything that was going on. High schoolers, we have so much on our plates, preparing for college, making sure we're involved in so many of these activities that we have it on our resume for college and everything. And I was in everything I could get into, but I still read. I didn't start writing again until I was pregnant, just as a, like, we're going to try this, see where it goes. I was changing what I wanted to do with my life. I was going to work part-time, be a stay-at-home mom, and write a little bit on the side. Now I'm a stay-at-home mom and I write. But it really started when I was young and just kind of, my imagination's been good and carried me since then.
That's great. I love the descriptive way that you write. It's very sweet. It flows really nicely. I think this series would be really good for somebody who's learning English as a second language. Because it draws you into the story, but it's just so well done. The way that you write, it would make it really easy for somebody to get comfortable with the English language and the descriptive way that, you know, things are described, even feelings. I thought it was really well laid out. And the bonds between people that you created and independence was key. Is that something important to you too?
It's something I have developed. I had to learn more of like being independent. So I've always had my little sister and I kind of became dependent on her. I didn't realize this until college. She and I basically should have been twins. We are 14 months apart to the day. So I've always had her to do everything with. And I had to learn a great amount of independence when I came to college because I moved to college 4 hours away, couldn't just pop home easily. And my sister was 2 grades under me. So I had a lot of growing up to do and learning to be on my own. And I wanted to incorporate that into my stories. Like, it's not easy, but it's doable.
I thought you did that well. Oh,
thank you.
Such a great story. So possibly 6, so could keep us busy for a while.
Yes.
And you said the 4th one is coming out on the 30th?
April 30th it drops, and it is called The Blood King.
Ooh, that sounds creepy. Is it going to be creepy?
It's a little darker than the rest of the series. So, yeah, it's going to bring in an ancient evil that is actually someone that's been around since the beginning of time. I'm excited to see how readers react to who it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was your favorite book growing up?
I was absolutely in love with the Harry Potter series. That was probably my generation growing up. My mom got me hooked on it, and I read the books. I remember my best friend read them before me, and we were in like the 3rd or 4th grade, I think. And I picked it up, and I couldn't stop reading them. And then reading just got carried away from then. I also enjoyed the House of Night series was another favorite. I enjoyed the Twilight series and just all of those big names from back in the day.
Oh, those were great. I love the Harry Potter series too.
Yes.
And I think you have a lot of the magic that was incorporated into that book to really keep, your reader tuned into what's going on, because it just flows so nicely. It's really incredible the way that you weaved everything together, because
Thank you.
it just felt like a much bigger book. It was such a good story.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So after this series is done, do you have any other plans?
I do. I have so many ideas written down. It's just kind of a matter of which one do I want to work on next. But I'm actually kind of taking a little bit of a break of working on those books. This idea has been banging at the forefront of my mind, and I'm working on that series next. It's going to be about a hellhound shifter. So I haven't got a working title for it yet, but it's going to be a little more of like the realms of hell and everything are going to be involved with it. But she's going to be another like strong female lead character.
Strong female evil character, it sounds like. How about?
Not so much, but she is going to have to be involved with a lot of evil people. She finds out she is Lucifer's daughter, but her mother is keeping her hidden away on Earth and just never made it where he could find her. She was convinced she was a wolf shifter and has been her entire life, but then something happens and she comes in contact with a demon from hell and everything changes. And she's just like, okay, so I'm not just this normal wolf shifter. I'm a little bit more. Like, what am I? Have I been living a lie this whole time?
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing so much about how you came up with the story, Releasing Your Power Within.
Thank you.
And until next time, keep asking questions. And if you want a great book to read, Madilynn Dale will not let you down with this series. We'll see you soon.